How's your summer reading coming along? Have you been reading along with me? I hope you've been enjoying the book so far. This week's selection is Sarah's Key by Tatiana de Rosnay, published in 2006. This seems to be a popular book club pick. The author actually includes some discussion questions in the back of the book, but you shouldn't have a problem getting it from the library right away if you want to head on down and pick it up. I must ask your forgiveness ahead of time. There are some French terms used in the book, and I'm going to say them in the review. My French is terrible, so I may be mispronouncing them, so I apologize ahead of time. There are two storylines that run through this novel. The first is the story of Sarah Starzinski, a Jewish girl who is only 10 years old, who along with her family is arrested during the Vel d'Hiv roundup in 1942, and the story of Julia Jarman, an American writer who lives with her husband and daughter in Paris, who is asked to write a story about the 60th anniversary of the roundup. In July 1942, when the book begins, there is an unfriendly knock on the Starzinski's apartment door. Sarah tells her younger brother, who's only 4 at the time, to go hide in their special hiding place, a cabinet in a bedroom where he would be safe. She ensures his safety by locking the cabinet and keeping the key safely in her skirt pocket. She intends to retrieve him after they've returned from wherever it is they're going. When the police came into the apartment, they took Sarah and her parents and made them stand in the street with the other Jewish families in the area. Sarah is too young and is too sheltered to understand what's happening to them. When her parents look around and ask where her brother is, she tells them and they both cry. Sarah doesn't realize that they may not be coming back to their beloved apartment. They're all made to walk to the velodrome, where they'll be released into work camps in just a few days. When it's time to go to the camps, the police separate the men and the boys from the women and the girls. Sarah knew that this would be the last time she'd see her dad, and she's fearing it may be the last time she'll ever see her brother. When Sarah and her mother get to the work camp, aka a concentration camp, she is able to escape the camp after a few days. She is determined to get back to her brother, who is locked safely in the cabinet. On her journey back to Paris, she is helped by an elderly couple who take her in and escort her safely into Paris so she can rescue her brother. When Sarah reaches the apartment, she finds that it's now occupied by another family. She is set on getting to her brother, runs into the apartment screaming her brother's name, goes straight to the cabinet and unlocks it so he can be free. Unfortunately, her brother, like the rest of her family, is dead. For the rest of her life, Sarah is haunted by her own decision to hide her brother in the secret cabinet. Julia's story is connected to Sarah's because she's doing a story on the roundup, and in her research for the article, she comes across Sarah's registration picture taken at the concentration camp. She's captivated by these big blue eyes she sees in the picture and must know what happened to Sarah Starzinski. She wants to know why Paris turned on their own citizens and what happened to Sarah and her family. Where are they now? As she's learning more and more about Sarah, she makes a connection between the Starzinski's apartment and the apartment that she and her daughter and husband are renovating to move into, an apartment that has been in his family since the late 1940s. When Julia finds out that it is in fact the same apartment that the Starzinskis owned, and her husband's family took it over and lived there for 2 generations without questioning what happened to the former occupants, her fragile relationship with her husband starts to crumble. Shortly after, Julia finds out that she is pregnant. She shares the joyous news with her husband, and he surprisingly asks her to terminate the pregnancy because he feels he's too old to start over with a new baby. Julia then has to make a decision between the unborn baby and the life she has with her husband. I won't spoil the ending for you. You'll have to read it to find out what happened and to find out if Julia ever found Sarah Starzinski. The chapters switch back and forth from Sarah's story to Julia's. On a whole, I found Sarah's story to be far more interesting than Julia's. I often found myself scanning over the chapters that focused on Julia's long-winded relationship and with her husband, and the strained relationship she had with his family, and being an American and an outsider in Paris. Not that Julia's storyline wasn't good, it just wasn't as captivating as Sarah's storyline was. I was also not familiar with the roundup in Paris, so I was moved by Sarah's strength and courage in the story. Sarah's story was extremely depressing, and the writer's description of the concentration camps often brought me to tears. I'd recommend reading this book 2 chapters at a time so you get a little bit of Sarah's story and a little bit of Julia's in each reading. You'll want to keep reading, but take it from me. It's a lot to take on emotionally in 1 or 2 sittings. Each week during the summer, I'll be reviewing a book I'm reading so you can decide if that book will make your library list. Next week, I'm reading Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. Don't forget to join in the conversation on Facebook where you can let me know what your thoughts on the book were or give a suggestion for what I should read next. I'm Leigh Pafford, and that's what's on my library list.